How much did you write today? Chances are it's more than you think. Thanks to blogs and texts and email and social media and doing almost all of our work online, today we actually write more than ever before. Scrivenography is a new critical approach that I developed that allows us to analyze and draw new conclusions about writers and their works by examining the tangible, the physical, the material, even the embodied aspects of the writing process. I argue that when we write, where we write, what we write on, and what we write with all influence how much, how often, and even how well we write, as well as our attitudes towards the writing process. In my dissertation, I ground Scrivenography in the Victorian period because it is the Victorians that we have to thank for the modern notion that anyone can be a writer. Before that time, authorship was the purview of the leisure class, people who could afford the time to write as well as the scarce and expensive materials. But then the Victorian manufacturing boom democratized the availability and affordability not only of labor-saving devices, but of other household goods, including writing materials such as stationery, ink, and new steel nib pens. This meant that more people, and especially women, had time to write and could afford and access the tools and materials they needed. The catalog of the Great Exhibition of 1851 shows that some manufacturers even designed and marketed writing goods specifically for women. Things like sewing boxes that also contained writing implements and compartments for stationery. But does this specialization mean that Victorian women writers saw themselves differently than their male counterparts? The short answer is sometimes. In 1893, Helen Black interviewed over 20 women writers in their homes with emphasis on their writing environments. Those women who had dedicated writing spaces presented themselves more as professional authors, a concept almost unheard of for a woman at the beginning of the 19th century. To validate Scrivenography beyond the Victorian era, I would draw your attention back to today and ask you to consider the nuances of your own writing practices when, for example, you have to finish that critical conference paper on the plane versus in your office. I hope you never look at your own writing in the same way again without considering how you created it. Thank you.